Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 684 to 634 to 636 for the 19th to 21st of November. Let's start off with the Southern Front. Over the Southern Front, we have geolocations of a toilet getting destroyed by an FPV drone. So maybe there is a Ukrainian force soldier over there or something. So that got hit, and it could continue to indicate that Ukrainian forces continue to be around to be controlling Dachi, no, not Dachi, the town, the Dachas or whatever, opposite of Dnipropetrovsk, and also north of this region at Pishevnivka and Poima. Nothing at Dachi though. We didn't hear anything from Dachi. Over at Krinky, we have continued geolocation of Ukrainian forces within Krinky, and they continue to hold a position. Information suggests that they are attacking westward. They are heading this direction. Didn't go very far. The Russian forces are meeting them to stop their advance, and reinforcement has been reported to be continued to be transferred to Krinky through these islands. So we shall see. There are some footages or pictures of some of these inflatable boats getting destroyed. So it's definitely not an easy operation. It is very costly for the Ukrainians tentatively, and I'm not sure how far they can go with this amphibious operation, because I don't think the Ukrainians have the large amphibious ships that can allow them to transport tanks and armored vehicles and major heavy equipments that they will need to continue to make this major push out of this region here. So if it's purely based infantry based, I don't think they can get very far. So moving on, we move on to the Zaporizhia front. Over the Zaporizhia front, we have fighting being reported at the Kayamsky sector, at Kayamsky itself. So on the 21st of November, which is yesterday, the Ukrainian forces, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that Russian forces conducted offensive operation in the area of Kayamsky. So we're not exactly sure where this attack come from. Is it in the south, or is it further to its southeast of Kayamsky? So we have no information from any other sources. So this is just that one-liner that we get from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So we shall continue to monitor what is this about. And there's nothing over at Petikaki. There is geolocation of assault actually. So this is geolocated on the 20th of November. It's not sure if this is related to the previous offensive that was reported at Petikaki earlier. But what happened here was that in this forest line, I actually posted this video on the DPA War channel. You might have saw it. And YouTube dropped a lot of restriction on it. I didn't monetize the video because this kind of video cannot be monetized, as I mentioned before. So I just drop it in for your convenience, but it does make things very dangerous for the channel. But what it shows is that there are Ukrainian positions within the forest region holding defensive position, and the Russian drone went in. They dropped some artillery, dropped some mortar to hit this location, and then while it suppressed, the Russian forces, Russian infantries moved in, and the Ukrainian soldiers, their trenches got stomped by the Russian forces, but the Ukrainians did not even put up a fight. They basically just surrender because they are generally outnumbered, and maybe these troops over here are just mobilized soldiers, territorial defense people, and they really have no interest to risk their life and die for nothing. And it ended pretty peacefully. They managed to arrest this Ukrainian soldiers and actually retreat out of this area. It is actually no violence. There's no dead people, but somehow YouTube actually dropped a severe restriction on it. So especially with Israeli Hamas war, the YouTube have a lot of heavy censorship right now. Basically, I think it's almost impossible to talk about Israeli Hamas related stuff Yeah, from what I check, from what my experience. So anyway, don't want to go to sidetrack too far. So there is this operation, but it was not reported. It was only seen in footages. So but I'm glad that no one died in that operation. So we move on into the Orikhiv sector. This is the Orikhiv sector, and so in this area, the Russian forces continue their counteroffensive against the Ukrainian forces, while the Ukrainian forces seemingly still is trying to push westward at Robotyne, while the Russians are countering back in this area here. The Russians are also hitting back, counterattacking from the south of Robotyne, in the north of Novoprokopivka. And at Verbove, the Russians are also pushing also in the northwest. Information coming mostly from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and maybe some a bit from the Russians. I don't want to go through all the things. We have some geolocation of Ukrainian forces in this various area here. And these are all attacks by the Russians, if I'm not wrong, against Ukrainian vehicles. So the Ukrainians may be pushing south in this area, or they're moving around this area or holding defensive position, and then they can strike by the Russian raiding forces, or probing forces or whatever. So this is currently the situation. I don't think there's much details to really talk about, but this is just a strategic picture. We move on into the Huaypole sector. Nothing over here. There's no more battles around here. We move into the Velika Novosilka sector. This is Velika Novosilka. So in this area here, the Russian forces continue their attack in the area of Staromayorsky, mainly over at this western part, and over directly at Staromayorsky. Generally, it is very tactical in nature. It doesn't feel like it's an attempt from the Russians to take out Staromayorsky. Ultimately, Staromayorsky is just another flattened village. The settlement itself is not very, very important anymore, strategically speaking. So basically, the battle here is still pretty much just attritional basis, with the Russian forces just slowly, creeping and just to tempt the Ukrainians to continue to send in reinforcement so that they can wipe them out. That seems to be the case from my observation so far. And geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting attacked by Russian artillery in the rear positions just shows exactly what I'm trying to say. Of course, the Ukrainians may be doing the same, but from my sources, it seems like the Ukrainians are very, very dry right now, and we don't really have a lot of footages coming out from the Ukrainian side. I'm not sure if the lack of drone, or is it because the lack of success. There's not much we are seeing from the Ukrainian side about them shelling, but we do have the HIMARS strike that was proudly shared by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, where they strike within Donetsk, hitting a concert hall or something, where one of these Russian singer was killed along with other Russian soldiers. At Prione, the Ukrainian forces launched an attack northwest of Prione on the 21st of November. So this happened. Russians probably held the line. We didn't see anything yet, but don't expect too much if you're pro-Ukrainian. For those that are watching, they are pro-Ukrainian. I feel for you. It is going to be a very, very difficult time, because all indications, or all signs shows that the Ukrainian forces are on the back foot. The entire 12th offensive brigade has entirely been pretty much combat ineffective. That is from my sources on the ground. There are heavy problems with literally everything. They're running out of men. That logistically, there's a big issue. There's not enough ammo. There's just all sorts of problems. So but the thing is, the Russians are still not pushing. So expect things to get worse. So over at the Donetsk front, this is the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, we have geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting bombed by the Russian Air Force over at this position just west of Novodonetsky. There's no fighting around here. And over at Shevchenko, so there is fighting being reported by the Russian Defense Ministry on the 21st of November. This is rather reported on the 21st of November, where maybe they make some push around Shevchenko region. The same happens over at the Mykolaiv region, where the same report also mentioned Mykolaiv. In the same report, they also mentioned about Novomikhailivka. So in this area first, it doesn't look like much yet at this moment. It's still pretty much shaping the battlefield for maybe something in the future. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces over the tree line shows some of this battle. This is geolocated by military summary on the 19th of November. Over at Novomikhailivka, we have Ukrainians being reportedly attacked on the 20th of November. However, it seems like most of it is still really Russians on the initiative, with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned about the Russians attack from the 20th to 21st. So the Ukrainians maybe are trying to push the Russians back, but the Russians probably held the line while they are continuing to make this push towards Novomikhailivka. I believe most likely the aim of the Russians is actually to take all the tree lines around here, as well as all these tree lines around here, to trap to encircle and compress the Ukrainian forces within into the settlement. Then with all these positions, the Russians then can conduct raids into Novomikhailivka and send the battle into the urban area. So but tentatively, the Russians are very, very careful, so it doesn't looks like much yet, but this is what I believe is currently happening. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by, I think, drone area bomb hits, right? So maybe it's an airstrike. So around this area here. So this, at least we do know that the Ukrainian forces are holding the tree lines, protecting the northern flank of Novomikhailivka. We move on further up north. The fighting is reported at this area here at Boyeda, Marinka, and Krasnohorivka. Information coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. I don't like the arrow. So information coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and mostly, and there are Marinka. We also see Deep State UA, but most of it is just Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The reported fighting is on the 19th. And then Boyeda we also see on the 20th. But the fact that it's just so limited is most likely nothing much. Marinka's fighting is just an ongoing, forever, eternal tactical battle, so nothing much to really shout about. The Russian Defense Ministry did mention Marinka for again on the 19th to the 20th. The Russian Defense Ministry mentioned that they repelled Ukrainian counteroffensive operations or counter-attack operations. So at Marinka, because we did mention in the previous update that on the 19th they already attacked. They did try again on the 20th, but it was not mentioned on the 21st, which means that the Ukrainian counter-attack may or may not be very successful. So this is something to note. Over at Avdiivka front. So this is Avdiivka front. This is where the Russians' main offensive is happening, with battles fought at Pervomaiske, towards Tonenki, towards Zhivany, in the south at the industrial area at Avdiivka, over at Vesely, in the region of the coke plant at Stepove, towards Ocheretiny, and towards Novokalinove. And Ukrainian forces did not counterattack. Mostly these are all just Russians doing the offensive operation. So we go down. Pervomaiske is 19th and 21st, so it's just random attacks. Tonenki is a one-day thing on the 19th. Zhivany is on the 19th, so it was a one-off thing. Over at this area here, where the attack was conducted in this area here. Over at this southern part, geolocation of Ukrainian forces continue to show that the Ukrainians have the junction area here, where previously the Russians have actually captured, but they relinquished it. Geolocation of Russian forces within the industrial zone clearly shows that the Russians have fully captured this area here. It was a very unusual video, I would say, where the person taking the video footage is inside the building, shooting out of the window, showing that the tanks and armored vehicles doing a U-turn with soldiers aboard of the BMPs. Yeah, it's a bit weird to me. And anyway, it is an interesting footage, but I don't think there's any meaning to share. Not very meaningful. Fighting continues to be reported in the south of Avdiivka. Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Rybar, all talked about it. And so the Ukrainian forces, and in this area, these are all the forest region, and there is some houses area here, a little bit of small high ground around here. So this area here is going to be very difficult for the Russians to push in. They can use the armor going through the roads, but then they will still need infantry to go through the forest region, and so this is going to be fighting on the what the strength of Ukrainian defense forces are. Ukrainian forces are very good at fighting forest battles, or at least forest defensive battles. I'm not sure if they still retain this capability, because we do know that Ukrainian forces have suffered heavy losses, and a lot of the fighting is now done by territorial defense. So all these trained fighters that were very good at the forest fighting may all be deployed at the Serebransky forestry region. So we shall see. We shall see how this goes. North of Avdiivka, we have fighting reported at Vasily. According to Deep State UA, Vasily is this small little village around here where the Russians have captured this area and they are maybe pushing out. I did see some mapping by Surya Maps, mapping in this way that the Russian forces a few days ago have already attacked in this area here. I didn't see this in all the other sources. I didn't map it in that way because I've tentatively have dropped Surya Maps from my sources, but we shall see how this goes. Fighting is also reported in the area of the coke plant. Tentatively, the operation around the coke plant here, let's zoom in a bit. The Russians are conducting some attacks in this area here, also particularly in this region in the north of the coke plant, between what's the location? Between Stepove and the coke plant. So mainly they are trying to secure this area here. They are moving out, and within the coke plant itself, what the Russians are doing is they are bombarding it. They are conducting heavy artillery strike and air strikes on this thing, and we have geolocations to prove it, or footages to show that the Russian forces are bombarding the coke plant. So they are trying to soften the target, the objective at this moment before they launch a major strike. We also have seen the quarters. There is at least one video has appeared showing the sleeping quarters or the resting area of the Ukrainian forces within the coke plant. It's supposed to make people feel like, oh, so depressing, but I didn't feel that. I feel that they are the lucky ones, because as compared to the other comrades that are also fighting the Russians, they have the most comfortable sleeping quarters, because the others are sleeping in the trenches. So but this is going to become a war zone, or rather it's already the war zone now. So it's just pending, see when the Russians will start to storm it. Geolocation of a Leopard tank fighting at Stepove. It was driving out, firing at Russian positions along the tree line, and then it withdrew. This footage, I believe, is already out now. It's already published. Maybe not. I will take a look later. I forgot. Maybe I've shared it. So it's already published, most likely. It's a very blurry footage, but it's clearly a Leopard 2 tank, and then it fired, and then he retreated off, firing a smoke screen. Is very interesting. But generally, if you look at the reports, the Russians are the one considering to be attacking. Deep State UA and Rybar both reported on the 19th, saying that the Russians were attacking and situation is very bad. And then the Ukrainian Defense Ministry then reported about the fighting at Stepove on the 20th. We didn't see reports of the Russian pushing Stepove on the 21st. There are some rumors about the Russians capturing Stepove. I do not see any of my trusted sources talk about it. So no, take it with a pinch of salt. I don't think that is the case. So moving up further north, Fighting continues to be reported east of Novobakhmutivka on the 19th of November by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. It is this push along the railway line towards Ocheretine. So the Russians love the railway lines. They love to defend along the railway lines, and this is where this thing is moving towards. So very horny. Over at this geolocation of this Russian forces all along this tree line corroborates and confirm that the Russians are pushing in this direction. So let's see how this goes. There's fighting reported towards Novokalinove. Deep State UN and Rybar both said the same thing on the same day. So, you know, maybe they're working together. No, I'm just joking. They are not working together. They don't like each other, I think. And then we have this very weird information from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. They say the Russians conducted assault east of Novobakhmutivka. But from my understanding, the Russian forces have Novoselivska. Let me have Novo. What happened to? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. Yeah. So the Russians have Novoselivska and Troitsky. This is based on our mapping, based on the previous update. As you can see, fighting was reported at Novoselivska on the 30th of November. So suddenly to say fighting in the east would suggest the Ukrainians actually did some offensive operation in this area and managed to change the front line, which is not something that I know had happened. So it's a question mark right now. We shall continue to monitor to see where this goes. If there is really a change in the front line that shows the Ukrainian forces have at some point in history retaken Novoselivska and Troitsky. So yeah, interesting. So let's move on. Over at the New York front, we have continued fighting around the Pivdene Sumy region, with the Russian Defense Ministry continue to mention about the Ukrainians' attack in the Sumy area from the 19th to 20th, mainly on the 20th, and then at Pivdene on the 19th, according to Rybar. So Rybar also started to acknowledge the fighting in this area here. This is, I think, the first time Rybar talked about this area. So what they say is that the Ukrainian forces try to capture another volcano. So there's one tiny volcano here, the slag heap. It's not a volcano. Like for those that are new to this channel, it's not a real volcano. It's a waste heap. So it is the waste that come out from the mining. So they just pile it up into a hill. So that's what they do, and so they tried to the Ukrainian fight tried to capture it, but it was not successful. The Ukrainians were trying to push up, and then they got shot by the Russians, and then they withdrew. So according to Rybar, they say that this top area here, this area in the top of this slag heap or this volcano or mountain hill, is not controlled by anyone. No one is holding the high ground over here, which is a bit interesting to think of that, which means that the Russian forces really did not really put much effort in this area here to secure this area, because you would imagine that if you want to hold a defensive position, these hills might be perfect, for as a defensive position. In this area here would be perfect as defensive positions at the high ground, but that's not the case. So it does show the lack of Russian forces in this area here, but it also shows the lack of Ukrainian forces in this offensive operation, because they don't have enough men to just hold it. So yeah, geolocation of infantry getting hit near Holivka, basically around this area, shows the scale of the Ukrainian attack is pretty wide. Previously we have geolocation in this area here, so it is pretty big an offensive operation, it feels, but the Ukrainians don't seem to have a lot of infantry to spare. But we shall see. We move into the Bakhmut front. So this is Bakhmut city. At the Bakhmut front, in the southern part of Bakhmut front, the Ukrainian forces went into the counterattack over at Kudyumivka, at Klishivka, but the Russians are also continuing their offensive action in the south of Bakhmut at Klishivka and Andriivka. I don't think there's much to really talk about around this area here. So geolocation, we have one within Klishevka, simply just to show that the the Ukrainian forces is still within Klishchiivka, but it's interesting to note that it was an attack with an ATGM, anti-tank guided missile. So, which means the Russians are not very far away from Klishchiivka to hit something within Klishchiivka itself. So, a distance from the front line is around 2 kilometers, definitely well within the range of an anti-tank guided missile. So, yeah, so not a very nice position for the Ukrainians in the south. We don't have any information in the north except for one geolocation at Minkivka on the 19th of November, showing Ukrainian forces at Minkivka getting hit. Once upon a time, I'm not sure if this is still the case. Minkivka is a regional HQ for the Ukrainian forces in this area here, commanding the defense of the Bakhmut front. We move on into the Siversk front. At the Siversk front, there is no fighting reported within the front line. So the front line is here. This is the front line. Except that we have a geolocation which is surprisingly deep into the Luhansk region. This around 1 to 1.3 kilometers away from, or 1 kilometers away from this border region between Luhansk and Donetsk. And this is just off Zolotarivka, of Ukrainian forces at this position getting shelled by Russian forces. So I'm surprised by this. There is this that's why you see the mapping is a bit weird. It looks like yeah, I don't know what it looks like yet. But no, it looks like a finger like that. No, so I still put the Russians as controlling the forest region north of it at this moment, because there's no better information. But Ukrainian forces at this position is pretty surprising. I'm not sure if the Ukrainian forces will be able to reinforce this position to launch an attack into Zolotarivka. But let's see how this goes. Tentatively, it doesn't look like that's the situation. We move into the Kreminna front. This is Kreminna, and the Kreminna front is this area here. There's not much fighting around the Kreminna front, as you can see, all the way stretching this area here, except within the Serebiansky forestry region. We have the Ukrainians launching their offensive within the forestry region, and then weirdly, information suggests that the Russians actually captured ground. So the Russians are also attacking on the 21st to the 22nd. Ukrainians were attacking on the 20th at south of Krasmini on the 20th to 21st. Yeah, Serebiansky on the 21st. So it's basically both are attacking at the same time, but somehow the rumors is that the Russians captured ground. So take it whatever whatever the way you want. But the rumors from, I think, Deep State as well as Rybar both claims that the Russians are taking some ground. And geolocation of Ukrainian forces just off within the forest, showing that the FPV drone dropping bombs on Ukrainian positions. So yeah, that's it. We continue to have this kind of reports talking about fighting near Krychoivka. Usually it's supposed to be in this area here, but somehow I don't think that's the case, because front line is very far away. So it is within the forest region. So let's see. We move on into the Svetove. Svetove, we can see there's no updates, and we go into the Kupiansk front. So this is Kupiansk city, and then this is the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, the Russians are the one doing the offensive. This is their second biggest offensive after the offensive at Avdiivka front, with the Russians attacking at Liman Pershi, Sinkivka, east of Petropavlivka, at Petropavlivka itself, Petrov-Travneve, as well as Ivanivka, with Ukrainian forces counter-attacking mainly over at Petrov-Travneve alone. So this push, again, I have to emphasize, it is not those push that is aimed to capture ground quickly. It is still pretty much a grind. So although there is all these reports of the fighting, the Russians doesn't seem to be interested to capture ground. So the Ukraine Defense Ministry are the one with most of this information. Is mostly from the Ukrainian side. Deep State UA is the one that talks about Petrov-Travneve. Similarly for Liman Pershi, Sinkivka itself, the only one that coming from the Russians is Sinkivka, with Russians reporting the fighting on the 21st and the 22nd report. But there's not much information. But so far, based on the mappings, based on the information that I can gather, it doesn't look like the Russians are trying to take ground is pretty much just to grind away the Ukrainian defenders in this area here. So let's see how this goes. That's it. This is the summary for the day of 634 to 636 for the 19th to 21st of November. Do press the like button, subscribe, and yeah, like really press the like button, because the channel needs your support. And I'll see you in the next update.